one, yeah.
Welcome to Inside Jokes After the Show. I'm Sandra Carusi with guests Carman Melville.
I'm doing Cookie Monster
CBC writer. Danny Mendlow from TooFar.tv. Dean Young from Taco.co.
Yeah.
And we're talking Canadian content and comedy and getting some respects and how we go about it and get some money funded for this stuff. And during the radio portion of the show, we were talking to Carman Melville. Carman used to write for The Hour, the George Stroumboulopoulos show, that was violently ended. No, didn't violently.
It was torn from the bosom of the nation, thrown off a rocky, craggy cliff,
was there
and left to bleed out.
Did you, when you were in the writing room for the Strombo show, did you have to focus on a certain? Is there Canadian content rules for spoken word like there is for music?
No, there's not like a mathematical formula or whatever. It's pretty intuitive. I mean, it's the national broadcaster, and its mandate requires you to think Canada first. So, I mean, that doesn't work out into a particular prism.
Right.
But, I mean, yeah, like we looked at Canada first because that was the thing. But we were pretty wide open, you know what I mean? Like, every day it was a debate between, you know, how much are we going to talk politics? How much are we going to talk something just because it's flat out funny? And how much do we have to follow up on a previous story? So, I mean, that can be a bit of a juggle, but...
So, what's interesting, so that's from our public broadcaster, CBC. Danny, who, of course, creates content online, as Dean does. Of course, we were talking during the show how much more free it is, and you don't have to have that Canadian content to what you're doing.
I choose to, but I don't have to.
You choose to?
Just primarily because there's a void. So yeah, what I started when I began. I mean, I started in film, TV, sketch at an independent level, and then also performing stand-up comedy. But specifically with stand-up, I noticed a massive lack of anything really in Canada.
What do you mean?
I mean, at the time, you had Comedy Now and Just for Laughs, and that was pretty much it in terms of filmed live comedy, and it's all heavily censored. So I would go to comedy clubs and see guys who can compete with Bill Burr, Louis C.K., Doug Stanhope, the
but they didn't
top
have a platform.
comics in the world, but there's zero platform for them to do that. So I really just did nothing other than point a camera at people who were doing what they already do. But
like Darren Frost, who we love, who's been on the show.
Darren Frost, Rob Pugh, Aaron Berg. I mean, Nikki Payne is on TV, but
best.
You're not seeing the same Nikki Payne you're seeing in the club.
Yeah.
And that's the big difference for me is I have yet to see anything produced in Canada that is as good as what I see every single night in a comedy club. And I work with these people. I tour with them.
Very interesting.
We're not capturing live comedy. We're trying to contain it and overproduce it. And big shiny lights and swooping crane shots are lovely, but it's
keep it raw.
Yeah. Comedy is best when you let comics be funny.
Well, Netflix. Sorry, Dean, I don't want to cut you off.
Well, and it's funny because even as a Canadian, that's the perception of people who grow up here. Is you think of those 5-minute sets that you watch it just for laughs, and it's people being just Wonder Bread, squeaky clean, and it's all. And that's people think that that's the entire spectrum of Canadian comedy.
Yes.
And it's our biggest export.
I know, but here's the thing. So many people, when you talk about comedy, and I get it all the time when people find out I do the show, and they'll make references, oh, it's dirty or whatever. We don't want to turn off the masses. And now I'm thinking like a private broadcaster and a programmer, right?
But the masses have spoken. They're selling out theaters to see Bill Burr and Louis C.K. when they come to town.
But very good point.
I just think we want Canadians to actually come and watch stand-up and watch Canadian content because it's a cliche and it's an old adage, but only because it's still happening. We have that boomerang effect where it's like Canadian comics are only legitimized to us as a Canadian audience once they've gone to the States, made their name, and then we take ownership, right?
Yes.
We love to say that Mike Myers and Jim Carrey are Canadian. They aren't coming home and doing fuck all. They live in LA.
But even that's kind of an old paradigm, though. You know,
Yeah,
like
it is,
because
but
we were
it still
talking about on the
happening.
radio show. There's this huge middle ground now of like. I don't want to use the word relative success because that sounds diminishing, but I mean where you're not this tremendous, now American famous sitcom star and this lonely genius working in a club, but with Crave and all these other specialty programs that are opening up bigger doors. There's room for raw stuff. Is it a really simple fix that no one's seeing? Like, do you just start filming comics with GoPros, you have to hit a certain kind of compromise, like you're saying. Like the privates can't just let every F-bomb go.
Yeah.
They can't let every super racially charged routine go, even if it's like generally considered to be politically on the right side. You have to like snip here and cut there, but if you're just over sanitizing it,
the broadcasters don't need to do anything. We live in the age of social media anarchy. If somebody says something on stage that they don't like, the next day they lose their job. That's the world we live in. If you want to stop comics from saying something, don't worry. The public will take care of it.
I'm just thinking in terms of like, broadcast when kids are around.
If you go too far, the world will let you know real quick.
I think it's just a matter of putting out a wider berth of stuff and just having more variety of that content out there, right? We can have more than just the packaged down little squeaky clean, here's the gala that we taped and this is what you see on TV. Have that stuff, because that's part of our heritage, but start showing people more of this other stuff, like stuff that people like Danny are shooting, and let people make their own informed decisions, but just at least have access to it.
Yeah, what's interesting when we talk about, I like to talk about the business of show business because that's my background, and I'm always trying to create content with the advertiser in mind because I'm a hack that way.
Well, it's important too.
Well, it's going to get to air though.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Sorry, but like I know how they think, and content you want it to air, it's got to be.
But aren't they pushing the bar back themselves? Like, isn't it getting easier and easier? Is it not easier now for the advertiser to justify
But it's also,
more challenging material than ever before?
They don't want to associate their brand to stuff.
but it's
then
also
they get letters. People boycott their product.
Great, but it's just not accurate. Kenny versus Spenny, which we talked about earlier, is probably the most, I think, on paper, successful Canadian TV show of all time. It was franchised in, I think, 15 other countries.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's sold all over the world. It's gigantic. Trailer Park Boys is the #1 most watched show on Netflix.
Yep.
Yes.
Sorry, but the public has spoken. And
right.
you know what people love about Canada? When we're crazy and uncensored.
And
Tom Green
Fubar was another great example. I think
Tom Green.
I think it's a matter of sort of because advertising is integral to what we're doing. Absolutely, that's just part of the business. That's the nature of it. Otherwise, we're all.
But we have to
homeless.
maintain the integrity of the craft.
I think it's the onus on us as content creators is to work more with the advertiser and sort of handhold them a little bit and go, you know what, you want to be a part of this.
Yes,
that's sort of what happened with podcasting.
Yes,
the advertisers wanted to just be part of this new cool thing that was happening. Right?
I agree. I think putting it's important, but putting the advertiser's concern like way out, it's like cart before the horse, like way before artistic expression. When these shows, I hate calling them products, but when the shows have, like you guys say, have proven themselves to be so wildly successful, if the audience is okay with it, as they clearly are, why then would the advertiser be like, I'm going to put on the brakes because I think the audience, they're putting themselves
they're driving content all the time. Yeah, the advertiser.
The advertiser is in danger of making himself an unnecessary roadblock to his own success.
Exactly.
Okay, well
they should never be the producer.
There's branded content now.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. Branded content.
Sorry. Well, I watched this happen over the course of my own radio career. It was like, at some point in time, the billboard beside the road became more important than the road itself. You know, like we should never be creating content specifically with an advertiser in mind unless it's
that's called branded content.
I think the quintessential example is Chappelle's Show. So Chappelle's Show is this tiny little cable network show. DVDs are just suddenly a thing, and suddenly it explodes. It's the biggest thing in the world. Season 1, Season 2, him and Neil Brennan, artistic, creative, comedic geniuses, do whatever they want. They make some of the best comedy content the world's ever seen. Season 3, all of a sudden, this is now a product. All of a sudden, it's advertisers telling Dave Chappelle and Neil Brennan what they think the show is now. Let creatives and comics be creative and comedians.
Yes.
It's not that.
You know
difficult.
what? Listen, from an advertiser standpoint, though, when you're marketing a product, you don't need people to boycott it either.
Yeah,
so I'm just trying.
How often does that happen, though? I mean, honestly, when was the last time there was a big product boycott? And also, this isn't strictly this isn't comedy. The reference I'm about to drop, but it is a cousin. Look at the rise of Vice Media. Now that is a commercially successful, absolutely it's not controversy. It's not worrying about controversy. It's courting controversy, and that's part of the business plan. Is that not the future? Now tell me about a time when a soap company ruined someone's dream.
Carman. Okay, listen. I
You
of
got it
course
in your
have
eyes.
my persona-ish, whatever, the DNA of me in the money part of things. Obviously, feels passionate, but as the content creator myself, I'm also very passionate on the subject. So one thing I know, Netflix, biggest profits is from the comedy content that they air. Okay, Game of Thrones cost $6 million to produce. Bill Burr on a stage with a mic, not so much. But they're making huge profits, so that's what it's about, is the EBITDA. And so that's why my plea to all broadcasters, always consider comedy content. It's cheaper to produce, higher profits, and who doesn't want to laugh? I'm Sandra Carusi with
There
our
we
guests,
go.
Carman
Boom.
Melville, Danny Mendlow, Dean Young. Remember, support comedy. That means you, the audience, and you, the advertiser. Thanks, Hakeem Optical on Inside Jokes. Check us out on iTunes.